Welcome to episode 44 of the Comfort via Discomfort podcast, where we are creating a mentally healthier world, one open, honest, and vulnerable conversation at a time. I'm your host, Adam Beaumier, and in this episode, I had the absolute pleasure of interviewing my good friend, Sean Penhale. Sean is currently the owner of a financial firm called Spectre Financial in Windsor, Ontario, and at the time of this interview, Sean had said to me that he's living the life of his dreams. And I love that he said that. And what I love even more is that he was willing to sit down with me and really go through his entire life to talk about some of the struggles that he's been through and how he's overcome that and how he's changed his mindset to give him the confidence and the courage to go after his dreams. Because I feel like a lot of times we hear that sort of line get thrown around like, oh, I'm living my best life. Sometimes it's said as a joke, and sometimes it is something that is taken seriously, or something that person is being serious about. However, oftentimes we don't necessarily see behind the scenes of how that person has actually gotten to where they are. This episode with Sean is exactly that. We go through, like I said, his entire life to talk about some of the struggles that he's been through and how he's overcome them and how that's really shaped his work ethic and his mission and who he is as a person. So it's really exciting to bring you this episode. Sean was a Division I swimmer at Western Kentucky in the United States. He talks about growing up as a competitive athlete and what swimming meant to him. He grew up with a couple siblings, and his family didn't have a whole lot of money. So at one point, his parents had to essentially say, okay, Sean's got the best chance of becoming like a really successful athlete. So we're going to put our resources into that. And therefore his other siblings didn't necessarily get the same type of resources to go after their athletic endeavors. And so Sean talks about how that sort of affected his relationships with his siblings. He also talks about in detail his experience at Western Kentucky and what it meant being a competitive athlete in both the United States and Canada. Later on in life, in his 20s, Sean was living with a few of his relatives, and unfortunately, his uncle died by suicide. And even more unfortunate, Sean was the person that found him first after he had taken his life. And so it was a really traumatic event for Sean, and it really changed the trajectory of his life. And so Sean talks about what was happening before his uncle died by suicide, what that experience was like, and how it changed his entire perspective afterwards. He also talks about how a move from Calgary, Alberta to Windsor, Ontario changed everything for him as well. Sean has been in the financial industry for almost a decade now, maybe a little bit longer actually. But it wasn't until 2017 when he moved to Windsor that he gave himself the permission to really go all in on this dream of trying to help families all over the country really get their finances in order so that they can live the best life that they are hoping to live. So, like I said, Sean's got an incredible work ethic, an incredible story. There's a lot more to this guy than meets the eye. Even I learned so much from him just from this interview. I had no idea that he was a very sensitive, very emotional guy. But now I do because of this open, honest, and vulnerable conversation that I've had with him. So I hope you stick around for the entire episode. If you do, please consider leaving a review on whatever podcasting platform you're on. If you're watching on YouTube, please put a comment down below what you think of this episode, what you've really learned from the conversation, or what you've learned from Sean. Things like that would go a long way to support the show. And obviously, we'd love hearing from all of you. All right, enjoy. Hey, Sean, I'm super excited that you're here. I'm super excited to have you on the podcast, man. This is gonna be a lot of fun. This is the first time with like some of the new gear. We're in your office at Spectre Financial.
You're back in your home country.
Back in my home. Yeah, that's true. I don't think about that often. And even this morning I was at Best Buy and buying some stuff, and I literally was like, wait a second.
Yeah, I don't actually live here. Like I'm here for like a few days, but like, I kind of brought the warm weather with me apparently.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Shelby brought some of it too. So
there you go.
yeah, apparently it was like 40 degrees last week. Yeah.
It's cold.
It's unfortunate.
I don't do cold weather, so.
You live in Canada. You do cold weather.
That's why I moved to Windsor. It's least cold weather.
I guess it's less cold than Calgary. Yeah.
You just get less temperatures, and the cold is different. You know, like Calgary's a dry cold, but it gets like 35 below, 40 below. Whereas here it's a little bit more of a humid cold.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to make sure you're bundled up in a good jacket, but it's like 20 below.
Yeah.
So it's different.
So you're like, it's not
and
that
the
bad.
season lasts like, January, February is like the coldest part. Whereas in Alberta, Calgary, it's like September, it snowed on my birthday before until like June. Like, it's just
that's
winter
a long season.
Lasts forever for some reason.
Yeah. See, when forever. Living in Alabama, like I tell people that I'm from Windsor, and they're like, "Oh my god, like it's winter all the time." I'm like, "No, I mean it's not winter all the time." Like, what the heck, man?
Yeah. There's a big distorted reality there. I had a girl in university actually. She asked me if I had a pet polar bear. Was one that I heard a lot. And then on my first class on my first day, someone asked me if I spoke Canadian.
Did you say yes?
No, I said kinda. We have an accent, but we speak English.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Oh, I didn't know that." And I was like, "But I'm speaking English to you right now."
Yeah.
Like, why did you not think we speak English? I don't understand. I was very confused.
Yeah. When I was like 12, we did like a week-long baseball tournament in Cooperstown, New York, and a few of us on the team and it was like there were 80 teams. Like it was a huge tournament, and there were teams from all over the country, mostly in the US, and we were the only Canadian team there. And me and my buddies were like, we're definitely telling people that we ride polar bears to school and that we have
100%.
parkas and everything. I mean, we're 12 years old telling 100%. Other 12-year-olds this, like, it's just going to be funny.
Yeah.
They're going to go back to their parents and tell them.
100%. They'll believe anything you tell them.
Yeah. Oh man. It was, it was a really good time though. But yeah, we're here in your office. Just want to say cheers to the first like podcast episode with like the new equipment and stuff like that. I love doing in-person stuff. I mean, like the virtual episodes are so much fun. Don't get me wrong. Like, but there's just something different, like sitting face to face
100%
and whatnot. So, we've got a lot to get into. We've got like kind of 3 or 4 sort of main things to get into. I mean, you're a D1 swimmer for a while. You lost your uncle when you were growing up, and now you run a financial firm in Windsor, Ontario. So we've got a lot to sort of get into. You've always been somebody, I mean, I've only known you we met in 2016, 2017, maybe?
October 17 is when I moved here.
Okay. I thought you were going to know the date that you met me. I was like, whoa.
No.
October 19th.
October 3rd was the first day that I went to the office. So if you were there, I saw you.
I can't believe you remember that, but that's awesome. That's awesome. So we've known each other since we've known each other since 2017. And you've always been somebody who I know is just sort of grinding away at your dream, basically. Yeah. And before we press record, you were like, dude, I'm living my dream life right now. Mm-hmm. And I'm super happy for you and really excited to get into some of the topics, to find out like how you actually got to where you are. Because like I said, a lot of times you see what somebody's doing, but you don't know all the shit that they've been through. You don't know. Like I didn't even know that you were like a super emotional person, but apparently you are. So
yeah, man, I'll cry a bunch today. Don't you worry.
Oh man, I'm excited. All right. So before we get into those like 3 or 4 like main topics, why don't you tell me a little bit and tell the listeners a little bit about like who you are as a person and what you do for work. And then we'll sort of get into things.
Who I am as a person, man. Yeah. No one's ever asked me that. I'm a pretty hardworking, dedicated individual. Learned that at a very young age. I work in financial services, so that definitely helps. I'm a very emotional person, as you just learned. I wear my heart on my sleeve. So, if I'm upset, you'll tell. If I'm, sad, you'll tell. Which I think is a good thing. I believe my parents raised me right. I'm a very moral, ethical person. Will always do the right thing for people. I don't really like confrontation much. It's kind of one of my I don't know if I want to call it downfall. But it's something I got to work on.
there's got to be tough conversations in life, and confrontation is just not something that I deal very well with. I'd prefer to just kind of sweep it under the rug and just let it go.
What happens when you deal with confrontation? Like when you say you don't deal well with it, what does that mean?
Yeah, I just I just don't really like getting into arguments, getting into like heated discussions, where you're trying to convince somebody that your side's right. I'm a big believer that there's for certain things, there's no right or wrong for some things, I tell this to clients all the time. Plans are custom based on your needs, your goals, your timeline, your whatever, right? So there is no right or wrong. It's what do you want to do? And the challenge becomes, I find, when one person wants to do one thing and one person wants to do another thing, then there's this collision of heads that I think my way's best and I think your way's best or whatever. And I'm not a big,
and it's more like guy. I need to prove it rather than like, I want to understand your perspective. Correct. It's more like, I want to show you that I'm right.
Correct.
Like that's the confrontation that you're like, no.
Yeah. And it's why my business partner and I work so well together. He not that he loves confrontation, but he hates having this elephant in the room. He just loves talking about things. And whether he can get heated or not, I mean, I've only ever seen him kind of heated twice, but if he gets heated, it's coming from a place of understanding, and nobody can make a good decision if you don't have everything on the table.
That's a great way to put it.
Which is a great way to put it, right?
Yeah.
But my brain just doesn't comprehend that. I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to go to work. I'm going to go do my thing, and you deal with the confrontation, which is why him and I work so well together. Because I can literally just be like, listen, I don't want to have that conversation with that person. And I'm like, okay, I'll do it. Deal. Done.
Deal.
I'll move on to something else then. Let's go.
Yeah.
So we work really well together for that reason.
Nice. That's great. And how long have you had Spectre Financial? Like how long have you guys been working together?
Good question. I met him in 2019.
October 14th. No, just kidding.
I could probably find you the date, but I know I got invited to this networking seminar. He's the president of what's called the Windsor Transportation Club. We met, we kind of hit it off. He became a client of mine. I did some personal stuff for his family. And then I shared with him some stuff that he's never seen before. And it just kind of spiraled. And then he started referring me all of his trucking accounts. He's a long haul trucker insurance guy. And he started referring me trucking deals. And every time he referred me to a deal, I'd knock it down. And he was just like, man, like every time you meet a guy, like it's just business gets done.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know. I just do.
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't happen all the time, but we started as a client relationship, and then we started just tossing business ideas off each other and different things. And he was, looking to acquire his clients and do a bunch of different stuff. And that just didn't end up happening. And we had a backyard conversation about starting Spectre and what we'd look like. And he had he always lived a bachelor life for a long time. And then he had kids with his lovely wife, and his perspective on life changed. And he didn't want to just, make money and spend it. He wanted to leave a legacy to his family and, give his kids something to, he didn't want to just have his kids think that, dad can work for 2 hours, in his boxer shorts, virtually during COVID and still make what he makes. He wanted to show his kids that, if you work hard, you can be rewarded for it. But he did his hard work 20 years ago. Right. So he's living he's getting the fruit from what he worked for.
Yeah.
But if he continued to do what he was doing, his kids would just see that. They wouldn't see the hard work that he put in. So we partnered up. We got incorporated about 18 months ago, started up March 1st, 2022.
Nice.
Did about 6 times the revenue that I ever did as an individual person in 1 year.
Wow.
So I was extremely busy last year. Him and I worked probably 16 hours a day.
Yeah.
17 hours a day. And it was, but it didn't feel like work. It was awesome. I've been, I started in financial services with a company that recruits a lot of people because I wanted to build a business. And now I have the opportunity to run a business. It's not with that company anymore, but that's okay.
Yeah.
And, but I'm still living the dream that I had.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And that first company brought us together.
It sure did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure did.
And you made a move from Calgary to Windsor, which we'll definitely get into.
Yeah.
And you said you're working like 16-hour days, but it doesn't feel like work. And that's a really incredible feeling. And I know that you've worked 16-hour days multiple times in your life, like before this job, because like even when we were at the other company, I think you were working at that time. I think you were working like part-time at Good Life or something, and like doing nights and then coming in the office. And
I worked, that story's crazy, but yeah, for the first 18 months I moved here, I got a night job at Good Life. Had a fantastic team that I worked with, and I was what they call a motivator, really. So I just kind of did front desk work and clean stuff up and stuff like that. But it allowed me to do my business during the day. But I worked 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. 5 days a week. And I'd go home and sleep for like 3-ish hours, take a nap. And then I'd wake up and I'd get dressed and put a suit on, and I'd go to work, and I'd work at the office from 10 to 5 or 11 to 5. Meeting people, prospecting, cold calling, doing whatever. Go home, take a 3-hour nap, go back to Good Life, work 10 to 6. And I did it for, like 18 months, just grinding, man.
Yeah, that's crazy. But that felt like a job. Like what was the difference, you think?
What was the difference? Yeah. You know what? It's, you're not building something for yourself. I love Good Life. Good Life's a great place. Do I agree with everything they do? No, I don't agree with everything that everybody does. They have a great business model, and they impact a lot of people, which is fantastic. But at the end of the day, it's just not what I love. I got started in financial services because I really wanted to help people. But the neat part about what I do in financial services is I'm not coming to you saying, hey, Adam, like, let's not go out for date night with Shelby, and instead let's save the money. What I do is I say, you know what, let's take a look at how your dollars are coming into your household and how they're leaving your household. Let's see if we can find some tax or debt solutions that are actually going to free up some cash flow so that you can continue to live the life you're living, but at the same time, save money or get insurance or buy a house or do whatever those goals are that you want to do. And so I'm not asking for money out of your pocket. I'm not saying,
Yeah, it's like a different strategy of the same game. It's like instead of trying to like squeeze everything out of the orange, or instead of like trying to limit, what you're actually spending and saying like, oh, you need to, your investing needs to be like the biggest priority. It's like, no, of course you want to still invest in date nights. Like that's important. Like your partner is oftentimes like number one, right? 100%. Like you want to invest in that relationship more than anything.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to be your biggest supporter, right? In anything you do, your significant other is going to be your biggest supporter. And I've heard people say that over and over and over again. See, I'm getting emotional. And I'm super happy to found mine. So yeah.
And we'll get into that a little bit as well. Like I said, it's interesting because it's like oftentimes you hear like the traditional budget stuff is like stop spending money and put it somewhere else. And you're like, okay, but it's okay. Unless you like have a spending problem, then like, there are other ways to look at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, if you have a spending habit, 100%, you need a monthly cash flow budget. You need to have an allocation of what goes for date night and what goes for groceries and gas and all those things. You need to do the quote unquote Dave Ramsey stuff, right? Get certain debts paid off fast. Let's snowball some stuff. And, there's lots of great concepts and strategies for that kind of stuff. But the traditional way is, don't go to Tim Hortons, don't go to Starbucks, don't buy new lights for your business, save that money. And instead, you'll be okay. The challenge becomes is there's always going to be an emergency, whether it's this year, next year, 5 years from now, something's going to come up. Car breaks down, water heater goes, kids need braces, car accident, whatever. And you're going to take your savings. You're going to pay for that thing. Now you haven't lived your life and you don't have savings. And it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Right. It's why so many people are struggling financially. They're paycheck to paycheck all the time because nobody's out there helping people. I ask most of my appointments, for the most part, most of my clients, 2 main questions. They always get the first one. The second one always leaves them kind of like jaw dropping. The first one being, is it in the bank's best interest to teach people how to get out of debt as fast as possible? We all know it's not. We all know that that's how they make their money, right? But when you ask the follow-up question, which is in society today, why do you take your hard-earned money and get your financial education from an institution whose job it is to keep you broke? It makes no sense.
Nope.
It makes no sense,
Nope.
right? Like,
Yeah.
why, you wouldn't go to, a person who's, unfortunately in today's society, this might get you canceled, but,
Thanks, Sean.
you wouldn't, you wouldn't take health advice from someone who's 400, 500, 600 pounds.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They don't know what it's like to be in shape. They don't know the dedication that it takes, and they don't know the time that it takes. Right. And so why would you get your financial advice from a person, from an institution who's supposed to keep you broke? That's how they make their money.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's just where we're taught. I was taught that way. I was very fortunate that at 21 years old, I met a guy who was willing to take me under his wing and teach me financial services, and he was extremely good at what he did. And I learned. But before that, man, I had credit card debt up to my eyeballs and had no job after my swim career kind of ended. Didn't know how I was going to pay for it. Like, I was the worst of the worst. And after I met him, changed things around because I got educated. I learned. You know? And I'm a big believer in learning. I love learning. I love reading books. I love listening to podcasts. I love learning from other people who have experienced things that I haven't experienced.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. And that's a big reason why you and I gel so well. It's a big reason why we're friends, and 100%. we work hard and we want to help other people. Like, that's really what it comes down to. And we care about people. Like, we just really do. And that's something that, I think a lot of times, like, even me, I've spent a little bit of time in financial services, not a lot, but even still, like, somebody says I'm in financial services, like, you almost think like used car salesperson, like that might 100%. be like the, what people think of. And sure, there are some firms that try to take advantage or whatever, but a lot of people don't. And a lot of people are looking to actually help. And you're one of them. And that's a big reason why, even when we met at the first company that you were working for, we gelled so well, because I was like, this guy knows his shit, and he wants to know as much as possible so that he can share it with other people to try and help them. Yeah.
100%.
So
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I respect you a lot, and it's a big reason why I want you on the podcast, which is and I think this is a perfect time to like transition into the other parts of your story, because even you kind of just briefly mentioned, like, once you left your swim career, like once that ended, you had a lot of credit card debt and just no financial education other than what you learned from like the bank, basically. And then things started to change. So, I mean, again, like when I met you, you were like, oh yeah, I used to be a D1 swimmer and stuff like that. And like anybody who was in D1 athletics, or honestly, any D2, D3 athletics, I'm just like, I know what it looks like behind the scenes. Like, I know how hard some people work. And I had 1 year where I was like a red shirt on like a D2 school, and I was not dedicated whatsoever. Like, I was not dedicated, like D2 athlete, but I saw some of the guys that were, and I was like, holy shit, man, like, you're going after this stuff hard. Yeah. And something I didn't know about you just told me before we press record, is that you had like Olympian dreams, like when you were young.
Yeah. I was 7 years old. I remember Donovan Bailey winning his Olympic gold medal in Atlanta. And I remember him screaming, celebrating the win. And I decided that point at 7 years old, watching the Olympics in the summertime, that I was going to be an Olympian. I didn't know how. I didn't know what sport. I didn't know, I just knew that athletics, and I came from a very athletic family. I was, I basically came out of my mother's womb playing volleyball. That's what my parents did. My parents, they were both huge volleyball players.
Interesting. So was my wife. Shelby's big. You guys could talk shop for hours.
We should talk shop. And like, Jason's caught me in here at the office sometimes. Just like I got Volleyball Europe just playing on volleyball TV while I'm working away. It's kind of my second love. I decided at 7 years old that I wanted to become an Olympian. That's what I wanted to do. Didn't know how. I played everything. I did soccer. I think I played a year, kind of like t-ball, baseball, whatever, as a kid. Swimming, volleyball, track, you name it. I loved athletics.
Just like year round.
Year round.
You ever play hockey?
100%. No. My parents maybe...
you're Canadian and don't play hockey?
Yeah, dude. I know. Man, listen, I wish. I try to convince my parents, but they looked at it from a standpoint of it was expensive.
Yeah.
You know,
I've had those conversations with my parents too, and I'm just like, holy shit, man. Like,
it's a bit of a joke in my family now because my parents always told me that swimming hockey would be too expensive. Mm-hmm. With the pads, and you're going to grow up and you're going to get new ones and it's not going to be the same one and all this kind of stuff. But lo and behold, swimming ended up, costing them just as much money as hockey did. Yeah. So if I had became the same hockey player that I was a swimmer, then who knows what would have happened.
Yeah.
So
I think that honestly, when you get to a certain level in any sports and they become expensive in their own way in some capacity, I'm sure that especially like with hockey, you're like, don't be a goalie. Like
that's what I wanted to be. When we played road hockey with the kids at the house, man, I loved being in net and just like shoot the puck at me. Like, just let me see if I can stop it.
Yeah, try to get it by me. Let's
try and get it by me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's what it was.
I
loved it.
When I was growing up, so I did play hockey. Me and my brother both started playing hockey when we were like 6. My mom put us in like a power skating class for 2 years before we ever did hockey. She's like, I want you to know like the fundamentals of skating before you start learning how to stick handle or shoot a puck. Like if you can't skate, you can't do anything, right? So it paid off. We were pretty good skaters, like higher level on each of our teams when we played. But yeah, we started playing hockey when we were 6, and our basement was unfinished, and so dad was goalie. And we would just put our
little net.
Oh yeah, no, we had the metal nets and everything. Yeah, downstairs.
There you go.
And we would just we had rollerblades and we just go around and like each just take shots on them and everything. And then there were times where like I would play net and I loved it. I loved playing net. It was fun. I would just jump everywhere, just be like the craziest goalie.
Yeah, I for whatever reason, I honestly, to this day, I don't know where it came from. Mm-hmm. I always loved doing things that most kids didn't want to do. That's what I love doing.
Interesting. Yeah. I'm like that now. I like doing things that people don't do, but growing up, I was totally different. Like I wanted to fit in. Yeah. So I didn't like being different. I was worried about like if people would like me. Mm-hmm. So I didn't necessarily like doing the things that other people didn't do.
Yeah. I remember you having that conversation with me because that's how this whole comfort via discomfort thing started, man, is, that whole fitting in. I think it's a big part of society today.
Yeah.
And luckily, honestly, I have no idea why I didn't want to fit in as a kid. I have no idea where it came from. I love doing things other people they couldn't do. I don't know if it was like I can do it and you can't do it, or like I don't know. I can do it better than you. I just don't know. I don't know where it came from.
Yeah.
But even in my swim career, that's the events that I swam, the events that I was good at,
or the difficult
and the ones that I loved were the ones that were the hardest that nobody wanted to do.
Interesting. Yeah. That's really interesting. And like I said, like I'm like that now. Like I want to do stuff that people just don't do. I've talked to Shelby about doing a 100 or 200 mile race and she's like, you're fucking crazy. And I'm like, I know, but like, I want to see what I'm made of. Like, you know what I mean? And
push yourself,
it's going to be hell. It's going to be like a lot of suffering, but it's going to be a lot of fun too. 100%. You know what I mean? So I'm like that now, but I definitely wasn't like that as a kid. And you mentioned playing like everything. Was there a point? When was the point, or was there a point where you were like, it has to be like, I have to pick one. I have to just do swimming.
Yeah.
Like, when did you fall in love with swimming? Like what happened?
Yeah. My parents would actually, like every family from sort of central Alberta, there's a few different lakes that you can go to in the summer times. And we would go out to the lake on the weekend and just kind of have fun in the water. And when my dad would tell me it was time to go home, I'd be like, nope. And I'd swim out to the buoys and I'd hold onto the rope until he came and got me. And that's kind of how we got started in swimming. Is my parents were just like, man, he just loves to be in the water. I don't know what it is, but he loves it. And so I swam every summer from the time I was 6 to the time I was 12.
Like competitively?
Competitively. Okay. Summer club swimming 4 months of the year. Started winning provincial medals at 8 years old.
Wow.
The year after I decided that this is what I was going to do.
I
wanted to be Olympian. I didn't know how, but I was going to do it.
Yeah.
And Yeah, I got very good fairly fast. Probably because of my love for it. I would always show up early. I'd always stay late. Do the things that other kids just didn't want to do. And at 10 years old, I was getting recruited by the all year round swim program.
Okay.
But I lived in a small town in Lacombe, in Alberta. It's about 20 minutes north of Red Deer.
Okay.
Which is Red Deer's halfway between Edmonton and Calgary. And if I was going to swim all year round, it meant changing schools. It meant being in a new program. It meant all that stuff. My parents worked in Red Deer, so that made sense. But they were like, I just don't think he's ready. So I kept doing other things. Same thing, 11 years old. Like, guys, I want to swim full time. This is what I love doing. And they were like, no, you're still too young. So 12 years old comes by. And I had a situation at high school volleyball. I just remember vividly being like, I hate other people's mistakes making me lose. And I think that came from a place of not knowing any better. But like I said, I joked earlier about coming out of my mom's womb playing volleyball, but like my mother basically, had my sisters who were twins and myself, and she would still play co-ed volleyball until we got to the age where our sports took over. Right. So my mom, 2 days a week was playing co-ed volleyball, which is, I play it now. And she would bring me and my sisters to the gym, and they would play, and we'd go into the hallways of the school, and my sisters and I would just play volleyball back and forth. And so our skills got really good. Like I was, 10, 11, 12 years old. I'm able to jump serve. I'm able to set a ball. I'm able to do all these things that kids that are 12 years old are just starting to learn how to do.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, man, like my skills are so much better than these kids at this time. I want to do something that I can win because I wanted to win.
Mm-hmm.
And I want it to be solely up to me. And I remember just having a conversation with my mom, and she was just like, well, you love swimming, so let's just go swim full time.
So
don't play school volleyball. So I finished my birthday's mid-September. So I finished out the summer as a 12-year-old and made the transition to be swim full time. Changed schools. I had no new friends really for the most part. Had to build a whole new friend group. Changed schools, changed cities, changed everything. Basically right before my 13th birthday.
Wow.
So I swam 4 months as a 12-year-old, and I went straight into a full season as a 13-year-old. So I swam for 18 months nonstop, 6 days a week, every day for 18 months.
Was it everything that you thought it was going to be?
Loved it. Loved it every day, every minute. I loved it.
Wow. Okay. So that's really interesting. Quickly, have you ever had a conversation with your parents, or do you know the reason why they wouldn't put you full time, like when you were 10 or 11? Like why was it 12 that was like, this is okay?
Yeah, I think I've never really asked them that question. From what I remember, it really came down to you're too young to really know what you want to do.
Yeah.
I
was going to ask.
It was a big monetary commitment, a lot more upfront cost than summer club swimming. And so they just really wanted to be sure that this is what I actually wanted to do.
Yeah.
Is where it came from. Right?
Yeah. And it was like, if we say no, like a couple times and he still wants to do it like next year, then it's like, okay, he's actually serious about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was honestly, man, it was a big moment in my life. I've told people this a lot of the times. But my because of cash flow, because of my parents' jobs, my dad was always in sales. So, income it was good. It was middle income Canadians like most people, but it fluctuated. Some months he could make 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 grand, and other months he'd make 2 or 3. Right. So, he was always in sales ever since I was, able to know what he did. And so my parents actually had to sit my sisters down and basically be like, listen, like, we know that you love doing other things, but, I think the conversation went something along the lines of like, Sean has a lot of potential and he loves what he does. And his athletic career with swimming is going to cost a lot more. And so if you guys want to continue doing volleyball, which my sisters really did school volleyball and club volleyball, they didn't really do much else. My sisters, they basically told my sisters they had to get a job to pay for their club volleyball season.
Wow. What's the age difference between you and your sisters?
2.5 years.
Okay.
So they would have been turning 15 that year.
Yeah. Was there ever was this ever like a family conversation, like everybody in the same room conversation, or
they talked to my sisters individually and then they talked to me afterwards?
Interesting. Was there ever any like friction between you and your sisters because of it?
Yeah, we didn't talk for like 5 years. We lived in the same house and we didn't talk.
Wow.
Yeah, we lived across the hallway from each other. Like literally their room and my room was across the hallway, and didn't talk to each other really at all. Unless we had to. Yeah. We didn't talk.
Yeah.
And so,
was that tough at the time, or was that kind of just like, oh, I'm doing my thing, you're doing your thing?
Yeah, that's pretty much what it was, to be honest. I mean, as a kid, I was just very much like, I get what I want. I get what I want. And I had I knew they were mad. I knew they were upset, but I didn't know what it meant. I was 12 years old.
Yeah, makes sense.
I just knew that I knew that I wanted to be an Olympian. That's all I wanted to do. And I didn't care what got in my way. It didn't matter. Family vacations, friends, parties, birthday parties. It didn't matter. Didn't go to my high school grad. Didn't matter. It was,
you're just zeroed in,
100% zeroed in on what it is that I want.
Yeah.
That's all it was.
Interesting. Wow. Yeah. So how did you go from starting full-time swimming at 12 to getting a D1 scholarship to Western Kentucky?
Yeah. So great question. So went full-time, 13 years old, won some provincial medals, which was great. But for me, it was like I was second, third, fourth. I hit puberty really late. So I was, 13, 14, 15 years old, still smaller than most of the guys. Most of the guys are, 5'10", 5'11", 6 foot, 6'2", and they've probably got 30, 40 pounds on me. And so I had to be better technically than them just to
compete.
Up.
Yeah.
Just to compete because I didn't have the muscle mass. I went away to university, which is crazy that people think when they hear the number that they're flabbergasted. But I went away to university, 17 years old at 125 pounds, just sticked in.
Mm-hmm.
And I was 5'5". I'm 5'11". I've been 5'11" since I was probably 16, 17.
Yeah. Man, and I'm just thinking like, when I was like 17, I mean, I was still a skinny kid in high school, but I mean, like I was 5'11" and like 160 or 165. Well, like 125 sounds like super thin.
Oh, dude, it was brutal. If you saw pictures, man, you'd laugh.
I want to see them now.
Yeah. And about 3 months after my getting into college, I put on about 45 pounds and literally had to learn how to swim all over again.
That's interesting.
So different.
Yeah.
Not only was I in a shorter pool and all this other stuff, but I had 40 pounds that I didn't have before. But yeah, so I started full time at 13 years old. Just basically worked my ass off. Always at the pool, always thinking about the pool. I skipped class to just like get an extra little nap in before practice. And I don't recommend doing that. Now that I'm older, I kind of wish I had done both school and athletics at the same time. But at the time I was so honed in on swimming. Nothing else mattered to me. And, I made my first national team, 15 years old, made the cutoff by a few seconds, got to go to Australia for 3 weeks. We went to the very first Australian Youth Olympic Festival.
Wow, that's super cool.
Awesome.
Wow, that's really cool. And you went with your family, or was it? Did you go?
I took with the team solo, just with the team.
Wow.
So some kids' families came to watch them, but yeah, it was mostly like oceanic countries. So like Brazil, Japan, China, Australia, us, Hong Kong, America. I don't think America came. But yeah, it was a fantastic time. And they did the full thing, like the day before the competition started. And it was just swimming at the time. It was just swimming at the time. They had, I wasn't just swimming. It was swimming, diving, synchronized swimming, all the water,
except for water
aquatic
polo
stuff, except for water polo. And they did the whole thing. We did like an opening ceremony to music and national anthems. And we got to walk around a stadium. And like, it was unreal.
Yeah.
Unreal. And I met some of my best friends on that trip.
That's sweet.
Some of my best friends, man.
Yeah.
And we're still friends today. One of them's coming to my wedding here shortly, which is awesome. It was a great time, and came back from Australia. And that was the first time that I'd experienced training and competing with other people who were quote unquote at my level.
Like just as dedicated and skilled as you.
Skilled, same age. I wasn't
with the same like willpower.
Same desire to go.
Yeah.
Same desire to get where they wanted to get to. And it was a whole different experience, man.
What was it?
Whole different experience.
What like really changed?
At the competition or after?
Both. Why not? Yeah.
Both. I saw what other kids were doing.
Yeah.
I thought I was the only kid doing it. And growing up, I was like, man, I'm a beast. No one can do what I do. I'm different, right? And then you get to a certain level, and I learned this later on. Like, you can have skill and talent and all these things to get to a certain point. But once you get to a certain point, everybody's got skill and talent. And then it comes down to who works harder, who's got the more mental toughness, the little things, the things that matter, right? So I came back from Australia, and I had a conversation with my coach at the time, just being like, listen, I wanted to be trained differently. I want to be trained harder. And in Red Deer, we had such a small pool, small facility. There's only maybe 15 or 16 of us in the, senior program at the time. And there wasn't really room to train one kid differently than everybody else. And so my mom and I started looking for other things to do. And we tried to see if on weekends we could drive down to Calgary. At the time had the best. So I was a 200 butterflyer, a 400 IMer, and a 1500 miler. So all three events that nobody likes to swim.
1500 miler?
Yeah, 1500 meters is the mile is what we call it.
Gotcha.
Calgary, University of Calgary Dinos had the best 200 flyers, milers, 400 IMers at the time. And so we called up the coach, sent some emails, and just said, hey, listen, we want to get some extra training in. Is there a possibility that, Sean could come down on weekends and train with you guys just on his own?
That's amazing that your mom did that.
Yeah, you'd think so. Yeah. Lo and behold, so I was at the time, I was going into grade 12 at the time. I finished out the season in Red Deer, and this is what I wanted to do. We had just started the season, whatever it was. I would have been 17 at the time. And and I don't blame him for it, but the coach at the time of the Dinos basically told my coach that I was looking for alternatives to go to. And I got kicked out. I got kicked out of my club.
Wow. That's unfortunate.
I got kicked out for wanting to be trained harder and tougher. And so I ended up leaving grade 12. I didn't graduate in Red Deer. I went to a brand new school in Calgary called Bishop Carroll. They have a sports program where it's basically everything is self-directed. You show up at the time and you can go to whichever class you want to and sit in whatever desk you want to, but you can work on whatever study you want to work on that day, whether it's science or math or whatever. The teachers are there, and if you want to talk to them, you talk to them, but everything was on your own. And I was like, this is awesome.
You're like, I like this.
I like this.
I can be self-efficient.
Correct.
Like, I can be self-sufficient.
Self-sufficient? I don't know. Self-sufficient?
Both. Yeah,
Both.
Why not?
I would go to school for 3 hours a day, basically. I'd get all my shit done as quickly as I physically could get done. And then I'd go home and get ready to train. And I did that for this half of my first semester of grade 12 and then my second semester. And and so it was a big change. I lived with my uncle at the time. And so how I ended up getting the scholarship was when I made the move from summer club to winter club from 12 to 13 years old. There was a couple kids from Nanaimo, BC, who were in Red Deer visiting some family or something like that. And they came to swim with our club that day. And I built a really, really great relationship with a girl named Jessica.
Mm-hmm.
We still are in touch a little bit today, but she was actually a year older than me. And so she got recruited to the University of Western Kentucky the year prior. And that year of my grade 12 year, their 200 butterfly or 400 IM distance mile swimmer was graduating. And so she ended up telling the coach about me. And
like the perfect.
Yeah, it was awesome, man. Yeah. It was awesome. And honestly, I wasn't thinking about going to school. I wanted to swim out a full year just swimming to try and make the 2008 Olympics. That's all I wanted to do. And after Canada Summer Games in 2005, 6, whatever it was, I was horsing around with a friend on a basketball court and absolutely destroyed my ankle. It took me out of swimming for 3 months. And at that point, Commonwealth Games was basically out of the question. Could I recover in time and get fit enough for the Olympics? Probably not.
Yeah.
And I just decided, you know what? This coach, Bruce, called me out of the blue. Hey, we've got some Canadian swimmers down here. I got referred to you. I like your times. Would you come down on a recruiting trip? And I went down and I absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. And I was humming and hawing because I went down with some guys. There was a couple other recruits as well. We get to the end of the weekend. I had a great time. Pool was what I'm used to. It wasn't a giant pool, nothing massive. The school was fantastic. They had a great science program, great medicine program, great business program, which those were kind of my three top, criteria for school. And we sat down to talk about how the weekend went, and I told him I had a great time. I'm just unsure of, where I wanted to end up. And he was like, well, your other Canadian friends, Andy and Brian, already signed with us earlier this year. And Andy and Brian were the friends that I met on the Australian trip at 16 years old. Yeah. And I signed on the dot.
Yeah.
I didn't even ask my parents. I was just like, I'm going to school in the States, and that's what I'm doing.
Wow. And goes to show you like how much relationships matter.
100%. 100%. I mean, I live by the fact that you'll never be able to connect the dots forward, but if you look backwards, you'll always see that what you thought at the time was a bad thing ended up being a good thing. Mm-hmm. Because we just don't know what the future holds. And so 100%. If you just have a positive outlook on even the shitty things that happen, you'll be better for it. It'll make sense in the future.
Yeah.
Like who knows what, but it'll make sense.
Yeah. That's really interesting that you said that. A couple of things have come up late, like within the last 6 months or a year where like that, you summed up exactly what some of the messages were. Like Tom Brady has was it Tom versus Time, or like a ESPN documentary or whatever, where he talks about like there's 10 episodes. So each one is like one time that he went to the Super Bowl, which is insane that he has 10 of them.
Yeah.
But one of the things in one of his episodes was about perspective. And he's like, you don't get perspective in the moment. You only get perspective on the past. Mm-hmm. And so if you just maintain this mentality that like, this will make sense someday, just keep moving forward, then someday you'll be able to look back and be like, that's why that happened. Like that's the lesson that I learned from that, or that's pushed me. Like what I thought was a rejection was actually a redirection into like another area. So it's interesting that you bring that up.
We'll go through all my little dots at the end. We'll go through my dots at the end.
Yeah. Sounds good. I would love to. I'd love to see how the dots really connect. So you get accepted to Western Kentucky, sign on the dot when you find out your friends are going to be there. Yeah. And what was that experience like? I mean, you had your heart set on Olympian, and from my knowledge, you didn't make it to the Olympics. So like, what was your experience like at Western Kentucky?
It was fantastic, man. We talked a little bit about this earlier, I think, before we started, but Americans just know how to produce athletes. And the biggest thing that I can tell you that the difference is that we in Canada are taught to compete for ourselves. That's all it is. You're It's just you. Doesn't matter. Just you. And in America, whether it's high school, whether it's college, doesn't matter. You are competing for your team. You're competing for your school. You're competing for your nation, your state, your whatever. It has nothing to do with you as an individual. It has everything to do with you as a group, a piece of the puzzle. And so I went to the University of Western Kentucky, and I was a cocky kid. Just, I won't say anything else. I was a cocky.
You can say whatever you want on this podcast. Like, but, everything's allowed.
but I was a cocky kid because swimming in Canada it's just you. It's you against everybody else. That doesn't matter. Your team doesn't matter. Even the team awards, we give out team awards in swimming. Nobody cares. Nobody cares if your team wins the award. Your coaches don't care. They might care, but it doesn't mean anything. There's no significance behind it. And I started school in Kentucky with that mindset. I'll just do my race. You guys do yours, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I learned very, very, very quickly that because in the United States, swimming is a team sport. And so I stopped playing volleyball because I didn't like other kids' mistakes making me lose. Well, in swimming, in college, swimming is a team sport. Yes, you have your individual race, but nobody cares. If your team loses the dual meet at the end of the day, nobody cares about what you did. Nobody cares.
Interesting.
And so it became a massive shift in my perspective.
Yeah.
As to why I was swimming.
Was there
I was doing?
Was there a particular like instance or moment or experience that like really shifted it, or was it just
over time?
Yeah.
Yeah, just over time. So our first dual meet was against Delta State in Mississippi, I believe it is. Andy told me this story the other day. Actually, we met up at Honor Roll downtown, and not that I forgot about it. I just put it in the back of my brain. But in Canada, we swim the 400 meter freestyle. In the US, they do the 500 yard freestyle.
Okay.
And so first dual meet of my athletic career, and Andy made a bet on me as to whether or not I'd stop at 400 or 500. And sure enough, they saw me go at the 350 and they were like, he's going to stop. And so I sprinted, touched the wall, looked, and I was like, yes, I won. Guy turns and I was like, oh yeah, this is a 500, not a 400. Couldn't catch him, lose. And didn't make that mistake in the they do a 1,000 yard freestyle instead of the 800 meter freestyle. Didn't make that mistake there, won it. The next competition we went to a couple weeks later was at University of Miami, Ohio. And they had a really great swimmer that year, distance swimmer. He made NCAAs that year, beat me by a couple seconds in both events. And I just made a decision that day that I was never going to lose another dual meet again. I was never going to lose ever again. Because those events that I lost, Delta State was different. We ended up winning that dual meet, but had I won the 400 or had I won the 500 and the 1,000 at Miami, Ohio, the team would have won. We would have won. We would have had undefeated records and all that stuff, which we had for the next couple of years. But I just made a decision that I was never going to lose another race in a dual meet again, because if I didn't win it, my team didn't win it. And yeah, for the next 3 years and 3.8 years or whatever, after those two first dual meets, I never lost another race at a dual meet.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible. I love the like the deeper meaning where it was just like, I don't want to let my team down. Like I'm really going to focus on that, which is interesting. So it
was harder to actually transition when I came back to Canada.
Yeah.
Because coming back to Canada, it's all about you again. And I was like,
you're like,
it's just about my time.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about my time. I'll get my time at the end of the season. I don't need to worry about any of this stuff.
Yeah.
Nobody cared. And I had to like reframe my brain to be like, the only thing that matters is me all the time. It was a whole different perspective, man.
Interesting.
It was really hard to come back to Canada and want to compete again.
That's interesting.
Because when you're down there, your sole focus is to get better for your team. You make the Olympics, great. You make NCAAs, great. But you do not let your teammates down. And that was the lesson that I ran away from with volleyball, right? Mm-hmm. And coming back to Canada, it's not like that.
Yeah,
nobody cares.
Yeah, you talked about connecting your dots, and one of the things that just kind of popped up in my head is like, I wonder if this experience in Western Kentucky and like the whole like importance of the team aspect of things really has driven you to be like the financial advisor that you are today. Totally. 100%. Because like, I don't know, a lot of times I shouldn't say a lot of times, but we've all seen the financial advisor that like, I want to know the most amount of information so that I can maximize how much money I make. Mm-hmm. But I know you through and through, and you're like, I want to know the most amount of information so I can help other people. I want to help like the team win, so to speak.
100%.
Which is interesting. Huh.
Yeah. 100%.
Nice. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So you went through the next 3.8 years, as you said, and didn't lose another dual meet, which is incredible. And it sounds like your experience there was what you needed and what you wanted.
Yeah.
But the Olympics didn't happen. Where was that? What am I missing? Where's that gap?
Great question. So
I mean, making it to the Olympics is freaking hard, of course.
Yeah. But I mean, so I went to school 2006 through 2010.
Mm-hmm.
So Olympics were 2008 Beijing, 2012 London. And so I finished my my fourth year of university, was scheduled to go back for my 9th semester. And I ended up, so all of April, I took basically off of swimming. Basically, roughly. To do exams.
Mm-hmm.
Barely swam. Maybe swam. We're used to swimming like 11, 12 times a week.
Yeah.
I swam maybe 6. So, and if you're not a swimmer, you don't know what that means, but it's a whole, it's like training hockey once a week instead of 5 times a week. Like it's totally different.
Yeah.
Finished my exams, I was not at the University of Calgary. I was actually at Island Swimming in Victoria, BC, at the National Training Center. And that's who I was swimming for at the time. And I went to Victoria, went to go train, and was absolute shit for like the first month. Like I was getting beat by 15-year-old, 16-year-old girls because I hadn't trained in a month. And I was scheduled to go back for my 9th semester. Somehow, miraculously, I got back in shape, pulled out a fantastic swim at Canadian Olympic trials Canadian national trials in June, and made Pan American Games to go to Los Angeles. 4 weeks later, went to Los Angeles, Irvine, California, and again, no idea how I did it. Honestly, I don't know where the swim came from. Made a best time by 15 seconds, like just massive. Wow. It was huge, dude. Wow. Huge. No idea where it came from. And I ended up making Commonwealth Games in 2010 to go to India, which was awesome.
Wow, that's cool.
And so I sent emails to my 4 teachers in my 9th semester at school saying, hey, I qualified for Commonwealth Games for Canada. I'm going into India for 2 weeks, or roughly 10 days. And I'm going to Singapore for 2 weeks to stage prior to, so that we could get it customized to the climate and the temperature and the time zone and all that stuff. And 3 of my 4 teachers said, if you miss that much school, we'll fail you. And so I withdrew. I didn't go back. Stayed at Island, kept swimming, did okay. But at the time, I ended up having a bit of a shoulder injury for a number of different reasons. And so I finished out that season at Island Swimming, which didn't go very well for me. And at that point in time, I ended up making the decision to move back to Alberta, to swim in Calgary for Cascade Swimming.
Okay.
And under Dave Johnson, who was fantastic. And it just and Dave and I moved there in 2011, and the Olympics are in 2012. So we had 1 year to learn how each other coaches / swims, and it just wasn't enough. He wanted things done a certain way. I wanted things different because I knew who I was. I knew how I swam. I knew how I trained. I knew what made me feel confident in the pool, and it wasn't what he thought I should do. And so, we just didn't really click. Still swam a good time, still swam the best time, but it just didn't make it.
And then after that, I mean, like the next one's in 4 years, and
the next one's in 4 years. I had just gotten involved with the first financial company that I got started with. So I was swimming full time, working for financial services part-time, learning the industry, learning the strategies, learning the concepts, learning how to prospect people, how to talk to people, how to build relationships. And they're very big on personal development. And so, I was doing that for 3 years, and it would have been, I don't know, February 3rd, February 3rd of 2015. We had just come back. I took a weekend off, Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, didn't swim on the Saturday, to go to Banff and go to this like national convention. And they had this gentleman speak who's actually, he just wrote a book. His name's Ed Milet, fantastic guy. And he basically talked about how, he had a baseball career, and he always kind of held a little bit back because if he didn't make the pros, he could at least say, well, I didn't put 100% effort in. He was very perspective on his life and his athletic career. And I just started doing some self-reflection on myself. And I thought I would be done. I thought I would make the Olympics prior to 20. That's what I thought as a 7-year-old kid. And I'm now 25, turning 26 inside 5 months. And I'm just like, man, I'm still grinding. I'm still having my parents pay for bills because I can't maintain a real job. I'm not at the current time, I wasn't good enough for sponsorships and that kind of stuff. And I was tired of spinning the rat race wheels. I was tired of my parents spending money for me to get to the end of the season and not get shit done. And he had this he just kind of had this talk in Banff, and and I kind of took some responsibility kind of for my own life and my own decisions. And I went Monday morning, my alarm goes off. The first instinct after 20 years of swimming, and always getting up with my alarm, because I loved what I did. My alarm went off Monday morning, and it's February 1st. And my first thought was, I could hit the snooze button and go back to sleep, and nobody would know the difference. And that kind of scared me. And so I went to practice in the afternoon and was just like, sorry, alarm didn't go off, slept in, whatever. Tuesday morning, we didn't have practice. We had Tuesday night. Didn't really have a great practice. Wednesday morning, alarm comes. Same decision. I could just turn this off right now and nobody would know the difference. But I got up, I went to the pool, and Dave was like, "Okay, guys, let's get in the pool, let's get this going." And I said, "You know what, Dave, I gotta talk. Here's where my head's at. I don't know what this means. I have no idea." And he was like, "You need to take a break." He's like, "You've been pushing yourself really hard." I had just gone through a small little injury, and he was like, "You just need a break." And so I took from February 3rd off until Easter. I just, went home, went to Red Deer, hung out with my family. And my mom had this crazy question she would always ask me, because there was 2 other times where I was super disappointed with my performances at the end of the year. And she would say, she'd have me, I'd be moping on the couch, just, don't want to go back to school or don't want to go back to the practice or whatever. And she'd just say, if you didn't go back, would you regret it? And the first 2 times I would just look at her and be like, I hate the fact that you just asked me that question.
Oh, you know how to get me off this couch. Yeah.
Of course you know I'm going to regret it. And she'd be like, well, then you're going back. You know, and the second time I was trying to make world championships in 2009 in Italy, in Rome.
Okay.
Totally botched the swim for a completely separate reason. I didn't try to botch it. It just happened to be botching it. But, I mean, hey, who knows? Maybe subconsciously I botched it. I don't know. My mom was like, well, I'm booking your flight to go back to school then. So she booked my flight. And this time I was like, I just don't know. And she asked me the question, and I literally looked her in the eyes, and I was like, honestly, I just don't think I would. I think I'm ready to move on. I want more for my life. Yeah. I don't want to be the 28, 29, 30-year-old swimmer still trying to make ends meet, still taking money from his parents to pay for his bills. You know, and I was just done. And so I announced my retirement, and I was done. Wow. And then it led to a 15-month depression of what to do with my life.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
Yeah, it was tough, man.
And where did your uncle fit into this picture? Because I don't actually know where in the timeline this actually happened.
So I was 25, turning 26 when I retired, and my uncle ended up taking his life when I was just before I turned 27. So this was a year later. Okay, a year and a bit later.
Yeah, and you said 15-month depression, so this was kind of in that,
right at the end.
Right at the end of that.
Yeah, I was just kind of coming out of it.
Okay,
and then he took his life, but. Yeah, I, like anybody, I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. Everything I knew was gone. I retired and it was gone. Now what?
Yeah.
And I loved financial services. Don't get me wrong. I loved helping people. I loved doing the right thing. I loved being able to control my time and get dressed up in nice suits and go to work. And I loved that stuff. But at the same time, like, I just didn't know if that was for me.
Okay.
And I got really out of shape, got really fat. And
like athletic your whole life, and then don't know what to do, and then like
at our office in Calgary, across the street, we would walk during lunch or before our evening presentations. We would walk to this brewery called Minhas Brewery.
Okay,
fantastic. They have a lot of beer. Fantastic. Minhas Brewery is fantastic. They have fantastic. Actually, I think it's Ravinder Minhas, maybe.
Okay.
She was on Dragon's Den.
Oh, really?
So she's the sister of the brother sister that run that business.
Gotcha.
They did pizzas and beer. That's all they did. And the beer maker would come back from out of the room, and he'd be like, "What do you guys want to drink today?" And I'd be like, just change it up. And he created me this interesting mix where he would put totally, I'm not really off topic, but he would put apple, like an apple, kind of like an apple Bud Light beer, kind of like an apple cider kind of beer.
Okay.
And then he would use a spoon and he would pour Guinness very lightly against the glass, and it would go with Guinness at the top, apple on the bottom. And as you drank it, it would start to mix itself.
Interesting.
And for months I would get shit faced.
Oh boy.
Just drink. Lunchtime, pizza, beer. Before our presentations, pizza, beer. And I would be at the office, like trying to sober up just so that I could drive home.
Wow.
And I just like, I didn't have any like suicide thoughts like that. It was just, I just didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to put my energy, put my time, put my focus. I had nothing. Didn't know what to do. And after a while, I was very fortunate to have some great guys at that company who noticed what was going on. And one of them, his name's Corey. He pulled me aside and we talked about it for like an hour. Like, he doesn't need to talk to me. He's not my senior guy. Doesn't need to talk to me, but I just happened to rent space in his office kind of thing. And we start getting into this conversation, and he pointed out to me that success and achievement are two very different things.
Okay.
And I didn't know what he meant.
Yeah.
And he was like, listen, man, like, you're depressed because you think they're the same things. You think you failed at becoming an Olympian, and you think you failed at your swim career. And, maybe you didn't make the Olympics, sure, but you didn't achieve what you wanted to achieve but you still succeeded where most people don't succeed.
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't get to that level. Most people don't spend 10 years on a national team. Most people don't make it, height of my career, I was top 40 in the world. Most people don't make it there.
Yeah.
And he said that, and it just totally changed for me.
Wow.
I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was how he said it or just what he said, but I was like, you're right. Like, you're right. I did it. I did succeed at a certain level.
Mm-hmm.
I did. And I don't need to be depressed anymore.
Yeah.
I don't need to be feeling sorry for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to be at home sulking, wondering what I'm going to do with my life. I could do anything I wanted with my life, because one of the biggest fears I had was I put 20 years into swimming.
Yeah.
And I didn't get where I wanted to go.
Mm.
So what if I spend the next 20 years of my life doing something else and I still don't get to where I want to go?
Wow.
The difference is in the business world and in the personal world, you're still going to end up farther down the road.
Yeah. 100%.
Than you are now.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You might, most people underestimate what they can do most people overestimate what they can do in a year.
Yeah.
And they underestimate what they can do in 10. Right. We always set these crazy goals for ourselves, but we don't know how hard they're going to take.
Yeah.
But that's because it's only 1 year. Yeah. Give yourself some time.
Interesting.
Just be patient. Give yourself some time. And
stick at it, right? Be consistent.
Be consistent. Show up every day. Put in the work. Just like my swim career. And you will succeed. It might take you a little bit more time. Yeah. Some Olympians make it at 12 and they're done by 16. Some don't make it till they're 20 and they spend 10 years on the national team winning medals. Mm-hmm. Everybody has a different path.
Yeah.
And I really took that to heart when we had that conversation and started working out again, started getting in shape, was back to my physical body that I was when I was swimming. I was actually a lot bigger now because I was actually able to like put on some muscle and put on some mass while I wasn't, swimming 20 kilometers a day. And so when I ate, I actually was able to put on some muscle mass. And so when I started working out, I was actually a lot bigger, which was awesome. But and then the gentleman who recruited me in the business moved here to Windsor. And we had conversations for about a year as to whether or not I should move. And it's a big move. And at the time I was like, I got my friends here and I got volleyball now because I got back into volleyball, playing volleyball, reffing volleyball, coaching volleyball. And I went back to work. I was working part-time financial services and part-time selling mattresses at Sleep Country.
Oh, interesting.
Working on my sales skills.
Didn't know that.
Like that. So
cool.
Just wanted to pay the bills, wanted to get off my parents' bill and just was like, you know what, right now working part-time in the industry doesn't make sense. And so, I went back to work. And then, June 3rd of 2017. My uncle who I was living with ended up committing suicide, and I was the one who found him. So it was a big change in my life.
Yeah.
After 18 months of depression. So
yeah, no kidding. I mean, just hearing that, especially because I didn't know about your like depression, like the period of depression that you went through, and I didn't know that it was like right at the end, right? And I think that a lot of me just hearing that, I'm like, how did that not send you into another sort of depression episode, right? And I mean, like, I've also lost a couple friends to suicide, and I mean, I myself like attempted suicide in 2013, but I've never like walked in on somebody, like found the person after they've done it. So like,
it was hard.
Yeah, what was that like, and like, how did that not almost put you into another episode?
Yeah, that's a tough question, man.
I know. I'm sorry, but I'm like,
I mean, this is actually the first time I've actually been like emotional about it. Actually, to be honest.
Interesting. Okay.
So to preface the story, he had attempted suicide 10 years prior.
Okay.
I don't know why. Who knows why people do what they do? All we can do right now is speculate as to why a person does what a person does.
Mm-hmm.
But 10 years prior, I was still in college. I got notified that the police found him, south of Calgary with like scissors in his neck or something like that. And I came home for Christmas and we saw him at the mental ward psych ward of the hospital. And yeah, he just he honestly he did the work. He got better. But my uncle as a contractor, and I don't know if this is just contractors everywhere or just in Alberta, but I think it's most places. They make good money and they spend good money. And so my uncle surrounded himself with people who went to strip clubs and got drunk every night and would show up to, construction jobs hammered and still try to get jobs done. And that's just kind of the people he hung out with.
Mm-hmm.
And so he made a choice about halfway through. So call it 5 years. He was good for 5 years, very happy, living a good life, making good money, doing good things. He made a choice that he preferred drinking versus taking his medication. That's really where it started.
Okay.
And yeah, so he couldn't do both. And so he started drinking again, and the drinking spiraled him farther and farther and farther. And then his wife died and his pet died. And it was just a very unfortunate, circumstances.
Yeah.
And yeah, he'd been being very distant. We normally hung out a bit when I wasn't working. We'd golf a bunch. He loved golfing.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he just wasn't really doing much stuff with me. He wasn't hanging out with me. And then it started to like, I would walk by his room on the way to my bedroom, and I could see him like sitting on the side of his bed, just like staring at the wall.
Yeah.
And there was a few days where I'd knock and just be like, "Hey man, like, you okay?" And he's like, "Oh, I feel kind of constipated. I'm just not really sure like what's going on." And I was like, "That it just doesn't
add up.
Doesn't add up. Doesn't sound right." And
Mm-hmm.
so, I found him on Saturday morning. So the Thursday night, I was working at Sleep Country, put in a shift, went from work to the gym. And when I was on my way home from the gym, his business partner called me and told me that he was doing some weird shit at work. He was a contract floor layer, so he installed carpet, tile, lino, etc. That he had left tools under the carpet and then had kicked it into the walls, and so you could just see this like giant hill, which is not something a guy who's been doing carpeting for 40 years misses.
Yeah.
And so he called me and he said, "Listen, man, your uncle was doing some weird shit at work today, and
Mm-hmm.
we're taking him to the hospital. And he's been complaining about being constipated the whole time, so we're going to take him to the hospital to see if they can do something." I get there and he's talking about being constipated, and the doctor's all, "I don't feel anything. I don't see this. I don't see that." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I'm going to run to the washroom." And as the doctor and I left, I pulled the doctor aside and I said, "Listen, man, my uncle was here at this hospital 10 years ago because he tried to commit suicide. My uncle's not constipated." I said, "I've been seeing him drink more and more and more and more and more, and he's contemplating suicide. Like, you have to do something."
Like, you knew it.
I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew he was. I just had this feeling. And he was like, "Well, we can ask him. We can ask him himself, but unless he tells us that he's contemplating suicide, there's nothing we can do." And that's a big problem because the people that care about you, obviously there's going to be bad eggs in the world and people are going to say some stupid shit. But the people that you care about you the most know who you are and know when you're acting not right.
Mm-hmm.
And so he cleared the room. He had me and his business partner and his daughter-in-law leave the room, and he had a conversation with them. And he came out of the room 20 minutes later, and he seemed super pissed off, like facial expression wise, but was very calm. And he was like, "I'll see you guys at the house later." Da, 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 da. Like, okay, cool. So whatever. We go home. All's good. He goes to sleep. We wake up. I'm at work, and he calls me around like 3:00, and he says, "Hey man, I really want to appreciate what you did for me last night. I really just needed to talk to somebody. Thanks for talking to the doctor. I want to know if you want to go golfing on Monday." And I was like, yeah, man, let's go golfing. Like, I've been trying to get you golfing for a long time. Let's go golfing.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, I'll book the tee time. I was like, okay, sounds good. You let me know. I'll be home a little bit later. So I got home around 10 o'clock at night when my shift ended and then I went to the gym. And so I got back. And when I walked by his room, all was good. And he said hi to me, and I went to sleep. Didn't think anything of it. But after the hospital incident, I called my mom that day and I said, listen, man, like, Uncle Mike's been acting weird.
Yeah.
And the only person he ever listens to is either you or grandma. So like, you guys need to come down here because I don't know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so my parents and my grandparents were getting ready to leave Red Deer to come down to Calgary. And my mom, I was getting ready for work, and my mom texts me and she says, how's everything going? I said, good. She said, how's Mike today? And I said, I think he's okay. I saw him last night. He seemed good. His light's on in his room right now. And, but I haven't seen him, but I'm just getting ready for work. And my mom goes, can you go check on him for me? And in 6 years of living with her brother, she never once asked me to go check on him. And the moment she said it, I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was a feeling or just something came over me. It was like, shit went sideways.
Yeah.
Knock on the door, nothing. Knock on the door again, nothing. Open it up. And it was pretty bad. He took a knife to his neck. So there's just like blood everywhere.
Yeah.
And the worst part was, and honestly, to be honest, from a perspective standpoint, I don't know if this is true or not, but to me, and maybe this is just me making the situation better, but to me, it looked like the moment he did it, he regretted it. The facial expression on his face looked like he regretted it. But yeah, so I called my parents and said, hey, listen, Mike's dead. There's, there was no question about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my mom kind of freaked out a little bit, and she got my dad from work. My dad took the day off work, and they all came down. And I put on a pretty good, outer layer for a while. It was pretty good. Cops came by. Cops were, things are okay, and it's okay, and you don't have to worry about it. And I'm just like, listen, man, just stop talking to me. Like, I'm fine. He's like, oh, it's just shock. It's just shock. And I was like, stop fucking saying that to me. Like, I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I was good for probably, I don't know, 90 minutes maybe. And then the medical examiner arrived and went upstairs, and I went down the back stairs because they were going to take him out the front stairs. And I walked around the building, and as my mom approached me, that's when I just like broke. I felt so bad that I couldn't do anything, and felt like I felt like it was my fault, to be honest, which after talking to a psychologist, like most of the time, that's what happens with people who find people who have committed suicide. So yeah, it was pretty tough. And so I took probably 3 weeks off of work, and had a good conversation with a psychologist, and she was actually pretty happy that I wasn't more upset than I was. And she said it was because he had attempted it 10 years earlier. And so it wasn't more of like a, will he do it? It was more of like a, would he do it again? So we were already kind of like mentally prepared for it. And I just remember going home, and I went to a buddy's house, stayed with him for a week. And actually the first night I actually called a friend who I worked with, whose husband was a cop. She had done a lot of work with police officers who have seen some scary shit. And I went and stayed at her house. And her husband was all cool with it. And it was really peaceful to just be able to talk to somebody who's actually like talked to, whose husband, like they talk about these things all the time.
Yeah.
So it was really great. She had some really, really, really good insights for me. And then I went and stayed for about a week and a half with my buddy. And I ended up, after they cleaned up the house and stuff like that, I ended up actually staying at the apartment like by myself for the next 2.5 months or something like that.
Wow.
And which was pretty eerie for sometimes. But yeah, the biggest change was the guy. My uncle was 62, I think, and I asked myself. I said to myself, I don't want to be 62 contemplating the decisions that I've made in my life. And so if I was to make decisions in my life for me, and regardless of friends, family, loved ones, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, if I was going to make the decision for me, what would I do with my life?
Yeah.
For me to be happy.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get back into the industry. I wanted to help people financially. I wanted to do what I do now. And if I was going to do it, I wanted to do it with the guy that trained me in the business. And so I worked my ass off at Sleep Country and saved up as much money as I could in 3 months. And I packed up my car and moved.
Wow.
And my mom thought I was going to wait till like spring of the next year. And I called her one day and I was just like, hey, listen, like I'm moving next week. And she's like, I thought that's why you were calling. Like, she just had this intuition that that's what I was doing.
Wow.
And
that's
incredible. I packed up my car, left on September 30th at like 3 a.m. And I was in Windsor October 1st at 9 p.m.
And what is it, like a 38-hour drive?
Yeah,
or something
like that. 36, 30, 35, 36.
Wow, dude. Wow. That's
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So now I'm here. It's been 6 years.
So now I'm here. It's been 6 years. So all that, then 6 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
wow.
it's crazy.
Thank you for sharing all that. I mean,
Yeah,
like that's a lot. And I know that you said you were going to get emotional about it, and I'm trying not to cry because like that's a lot.
It's nuts.
Yeah. But you're not the only person that I've interviewed that had a loved one like pass away in that matter, and then them really get focused in on what they want to do with their life and then to move forward. Not to say that, I mean, like that's the way to do it. Obviously, like I'm really sorry that you lost your uncle that way, and that my other friend lost his dad that way. It's just really interesting that like that is like a really powerful inflection point where it's just like a self audit of like where am I now? What am I doing? What do I want to do? And like how serious am I about actually doing that? Yeah,
100%, man. I mean, I think a lot of people tell me, a lot of people have this, the saying that people don't change. It's completely wrong. People do change.
If they want to.
If they want to.
Yeah.
And the challenge becomes is, well, if you look at most people, when do they change? Well, they change when a big event like that happens, right? That shocks them. Or they change when they hit rock bottom. You can't force someone to change.
No.
I can't, you can't go to Shelby and be like, I need you to do X. Unless she wants to do X, she's not going to do X. So you have two choices. You can either love her for who she is and knowing that she's not going to do X, right? Or you can make things worse and worse and worse and worse and worse until she thinks like either maybe I'll change or maybe I'll leave you. You don't, only that person can make the decision for themselves. And I learned that very, very, very early on in my life, that I was the only person that could decide what it is that I'm going to do. Nobody else.
Yeah.
I can do it for love. I can do it for hate. I can do it for whatever reason I want to do it for, but I'm the one who decides if I change.
Yeah.
You cannot force me to change. You won't.
Yeah. Really interesting. And in that moment, in that like 3-month span, you were just like, I'm changing. Like this is what I'm fully going to go in on this.
Yep.
Interesting. And so yeah, there was a lot in that 3 months where you were focusing in on like what you wanted and what you wanted to do. And you just decided I'm going all in on financial services. Like I'm passionate about this. I see a way to do something that I love to do and also to help other people. And that's what brought you to Windsor. That's why you made the move. And I mean, like, I know that there was a big change in that too, because it was leaving pretty much everything that you were familiar with and coming to a brand new place. And the person who recruited you was basically starting an office from scratch here and everything. So like, what was that first, I don't know, 3-6 months like? Because I know that you're grinding. Like I know that you're a grinder, but like what was
I mean,
like?
I was meeting people in all aspects. I hadn't had the part-time job at Good Life yet. I was knocking on about 200 doors a day for a month and a half. got some really great clients out of it, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something I was ever taught to do. It's not something I was ever like trained how to do. I was just like, I don't know anybody. I literally moved here knowing the guy who recruited me and one other guy who moved from Calgary as well. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know a single person.
Yeah.
So starting a brand new market, brand new job, brand new everything was totally different.
Yeah.
So it was a grind. It was a grind, man. And I purposely picked the job a good life because people who want to better themselves normally want to better themselves in all aspects of their life. Health, fitness, personal, whatever, money, business.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and the ones who are dedicated the most for the most part, are ones who show up between 4 and 6 p.m. to get their workouts in before their work starts.
You mean 4 to 6 a.m.?
4 to 6 a.m. Sorry.
Yeah.
Before their work starts. Yeah. And so I chose the night shift because I knew that between 4 and 6 a.m. I would meet people that wanted to change their life.
Huh. Interesting. So was it about like surrounding yourself with people that did that? Or was it about like, these people want to change their life here, so they might want to change their life in financial services, and I might get a conversation with them?
Correct.
Both. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. So it's about like, I need to surround myself with people that are changing, that are like truly dedicated to changing their lives, because that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And out of that, I met a lawyer. That lawyer got me to a networking event one night. That networking event met my business partner, Jason, today. And that now this company exists because I had that job at Good Life.
Really? Holy shit. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Talk about connecting the dots. There's a couple right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so while you're at Good Life, like you said earlier, working like, what was it? You said 10 to 6.
Yep.
10 to 6, taking a nap.
Yeah, it was brutal. There was actually a stretch. There was a weekend where I worked, got called in, got unemployment, got called in, got unemployment, covered a shift at Good Life. And I was up for 77 hours.
I think we were working together at that time, because I remember
I was dying at the end of it. Like I couldn't like formulate a sentence.
Yeah.
It was so bad.
Yeah.
But I was just like, my clients need to meet with me and I need to be at the gym to make money. So I don't have a choice. There's no choice.
Yeah.
When your back's against the wall.
Yeah.
There's only one choice going forward.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like there technically is another choice, but you were like, no, like I'm succeeding. Like this is what I want to do.
I'm not failing.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not failing. Like this is what I want to do.
Yep.
This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to put in the work to actually do it. So yeah, you're talking about how you were just like completely grinding, and there was a time where you were like up for like 77 hours basically. Yeah. And you were like, my back's against the wall. Like I'm making the choice to succeed. Like I'm not failing. I'm putting in all the work that I need to put in. Yeah. How long? And you said that continued for 18 months. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like a year and a half into it, like, was there a point where, or multiple points where like your self-care was out the window and you were just like kind of dying, or like what?
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Mentally, honestly, I'm kind of going through that point right now, to be honest.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of ebbs and flows in life, for different reasons. But at that point in time, like I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't looking after myself physically. I wasn't eating very well. Obviously I wasn't sleeping very much, which was super, super draining. It was super draining, super hard to stay focused, on some things. Other things, it was easy to stay focused on.
Yeah.
But like you had to have blinders on. Like, you know, I wasn't playing sports. I wasn't, hanging out with friends. I wasn't going to the club. I wasn't doing anything. Like if it didn't involve eating, sleeping, making money, or building a network, I didn't do it. And that's just the way it was. Mm-hmm. Like right or wrong, it's just the way it was.
Yeah.
My health suffered in the sense that, I got out of shape again, which sucks because you don't sleep well and, you're exhausted and you're lethargic and all that stuff. But at the time it didn't matter. It just didn't matter. And should it have? Yeah, maybe. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, like what's interesting when you say that is that, you're trying to surround yourself with people that were like trying to make their lives better in every aspect. And like, you were definitely putting in like a ton of work into like one aspect of your life, but there were others like mentally and emotionally that were just like pushed to the side. They weren't a priority.
Yeah.
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 Really.
Honestly, man, I don't even know how to answer that question.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you just have to,
sometimes
you just got to put in work.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was.
Yeah. Interesting. So you did that for 18 months. Was there a specific thing that happened that made you like stop working at Good Life, or was it just like, I can't keep living this life,
Yeah.
or did the business financially financial services start improving?
Both.
Okay.
I realized I couldn't keep doing what I was doing.
Yeah.
I'd probably be dead by 35 if I kept not sleeping. And I had met Jason. I'd met some really great people who had referred me a lot of business, and I was at a point where the business was paying me enough money that it replaced my Good Life income, and I didn't care anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as long as I didn't go out drinking, as long as I didn't go out partying, as long as I didn't buy any frivolous things, the money that I was making in the business made up for the income I lost at Good Life.
Mm.
And so I went back as like a temporary person. I had to work 2 4-hour shifts at Good Life, which I did. But other than that, I was not there for about a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this was what, this would have been like 2019 then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 2019, and
Yeah.
you're basically like really, really hitting your stride with financial services. And of course, as we know, a year later, pandemic happens.
Yeah.
What was that like in terms of your business, mentally, physically? Like how did that affect everything?
I was very fortunate that I actually closed 2 of my biggest clients the month before COVID started. So the amount of money that I made in 1 month was about what I made in the entire year, the year prior.
Wow.
So now we had no expenses. We basically shut the office down. We couldn't go there. We weren't allowed to really do anything. Most advisors that I talked to only made business on referrals they got from their clients. And I didn't have a ton of them. So I took this time to really refocus myself, focus on my health, focus on my mental ability. I went back to work at Good Life because they needed it. Once they were able to open up,
mm-hmm.
I worked quite a lot there. And then I started I did a fitness program called 75 Hard.
Yeah, I've heard of that one.
And it was awesome. Huge mental toughness for it. And yeah, I just worked on myself.
Yeah.
I got fit. I got healthy. I got mentally strong. I didn't spend a ton of money. I golfed a lot. That was the only thing you could do.
Yeah, 6 feet apart golf, right?
6 feet apart golf. That's right. And got really good at golf. A lot better than I was before. And and then I was one of the ones who I took the vax shot just so I could travel, but I didn't do it like right away. Yeah. When they actually said you can travel, that's when I did it. I had booked a last minute excursion to Europe for 15 days with a buddy of mine. And it was during that excursion that my business partner told me that his boss had sold the business and there was no chance of him buying his clients. And if we wanted to start that brokerage idea, we should. And I told him I get back on November 12th or whatever, and let's go get incorporated. And we launched Spectre.
Wow. So, that's how it happened when you were in Europe. Interesting. Yeah. And you said that it started in like a
backyard conversation. Yeah. We're just sitting around his fireplace in the backyard, roasting some hot dogs and burgers, and just started thinking about, what if, and what would you do differently? And,
what was it that you would do differently?
The biggest challenge that I find in many industries is it's the Pareto principle, right? It's the 80-20 rule.
Yeah. And
unfortunately, not a lot of people want to be the 20%ers. They just want to do the 80% and cruise along. But doing the 80% and cruising along is okay. It's not great, but we just felt that in financial services today, a lot of people will do things like buy term insurance and invest the difference. It's a great strategy for some people. Does it fit everybody? No, it's not there's no cookie cutter.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just be like, well, you fit this mold, let's go over here. every single situation is different. And so I had been showing some concepts about permanent insurance and this concept that people see on the internet called the infinite banking concept. Doesn't work the same way in Canada as it does in the US. It still works. It's just not the same.
Yeah.
And I had been showing it to people because I do it myself. I personally have insurance that I borrow from currently today to live my life. I love it. It's great. And if anything, if ever I died, my fiance would be set for life. But at the same time, I get to use my money at the same time.
Yeah.
And so, I dove really deep into this concept and, started sharing the concept with people, and I shared it to him. He took with it, ran with it, and was like, man, let's do a business and actually help people properly. Because the challenge is he was making, high six figures, but his guy gave him the same advice. Just get term insurance and invest in your RSP. Well, okay. Well, if you don't know any better, that's what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Question becomes, is that the best thing for you?
Yeah.
Is that what your goals and desires want? And so when I started sharing these things, he's like, it's too good to be true. I already have an advisor. They've never shared this with me. How come they don't share it with me? And it's the Pareto principle. You're going to have 80% of most people in our world in financial services that are just going to do the average stuff, the TFSAs, the RSPs, the term insurance. You're going to have a little bit that do some permanent stuff here and there. And of that 20% that does some higher level stuff, most of them are going to, 80% of them are going to do just a little bit of higher net worth stuff. And there's going to be 4 that do some corporate stuff. And of the 4 that do some corporate stuff, 3 of them are going to do just okay corporate stuff. And 1 of them is going to do a lot of great stuff.
Yeah.
And I just shared with him some fantastic strategies that were able to help himself and his family and his corp and do a bunch of stuff and leave an entire massive legacy to his family. And he was just like, more people need to know it.
Yeah.
And he sells a commodity, right? Home and auto and commercial insurance and stuff like that's a commodity. You have to have it. Government regulates it. Government doesn't regulate life insurance.
Yeah.
They should. It's the one thing that puts most people in poverty is someone passing away early unexpectedly.
Yeah.
But we don't regulate that. And so we actually had an appointment today, and the appointment basically was like, you're a different person to my business partner. He's like, you're talking differently, you act differently. That's why I agreed to this meeting.
Yeah. Is
because it's not just about selling a commodity anymore. He's literally changing people's lives.
Yeah.
Teaching them proper financial services, proper concepts, proper strategies, and laying it all on the table. I'm a big believer that if most people had all the information, most people, most of the time, would make the right decision, right? Take smoking for an example. People still smoke. They know it's bad for them. They still do it. That's okay. That's just what they choose to do.
Yeah.
Right? But imagine if we didn't know that smoking was bad. How many people would do it?
Yeah.
Just like an RSP, man.
Yeah.
Nobody knows that they're not the best thing for you.
Yeah.
There's one reason and one reason alone. If your company you work for matches you, do it all day long. Do it all day long. Take the free money. I'm good at my job. I can't guarantee you a 100% return on your investment. I can't do it.
No?
Nobody can.
Okay.
The company you work for can. I can't.
Yeah.
Right? And anybody that tells you they can is just lying.
Yeah.
And you should run the other direction. But there are strategies to get those dollars out of an RSP before you retire. Right? And so, just people just don't know them. And so I find that if I just lay everything on the table, you can decide what you want to do with it. But I'm going to tell you all of your options.
Yeah.
And most of the time, most people make the right decision.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what's really interesting. I mean, you talked about insurance and stuff like that too. And, I mean, me growing up, like I didn't have any like financial education like you talk about, right? Like my education came from very specific people. And honestly, like most of what I knew, like my parents, like the one financial rule that I can really remember that my parents taught me, my dad was like, always said, like, whenever you get a paycheck, take 10% and kind of do whatever you want with it. Like spend it on whatever you want. Doesn't matter. Take 90% of it and save it. Like that was a financial concept that I really learned. Other than that, like there wasn't a whole lot. Right. And I mean, like, you know me in terms of finances, like I'm pretty responsible. I got a life insurance policy back in 2017 when I was like 24 years old, which I don't know how many people necessarily do it. And I mean, by no means does that mean that I'm like better than anybody when it comes to finances. But yeah, I mean, it was just, there's a lot of knowledge out there that can really, really help people. And that was one of the reasons why I ever got involved with you or the other individuals that were at the first financial services company that you work for, because this was all information that I had fucking no idea about. And I was just like, whoa, like I can be smarter with my money. I can actually put something towards like a life insurance policy and later just be able to borrow it, borrow money against myself and not have to worry about actually like paying it back. I mean, I absolutely
could, if you want to,
could pay it back. But if I pass away, then the insurance policy pays for it. I was like, what the fuck? Like, why doesn't anybody tell you that?
Yeah.
Why doesn't the bank tell you that?
Correct. Imagine having free life insurance.
Yeah.
You know, like I always tell people, like if you could have free life insurance, would you?
Yeah.
And everybody says, of course I would.
Yeah.
But I got to pay for it. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I get it. But, and I started relating this to cars, right? We're all forced to get home and auto insurance. Let's say you pay $200 a month for your car insurance. If the insurance company said, hey, Adam, we have this new feature out. If you pay $50 a month more and you don't get in an at-fault accident, we'll actually give you all your money back. Would you take that deal?
Yeah.
100%.
Of course.
Every single person I asked would take that deal.
Yeah.
Then why don't you spend an extra $50 a month and get permanent insurance instead of term insurance? Because you can take it back out. You can borrow against it. And then at a certain point, you stop paying for it. It stays in force. You can always borrow from it.
Yeah.
Every year you get a dividend. You get to borrow from it. You get free insurance.
Yeah.
You know, and if anything ever happens, your family's taken care of. Like, and there's multiple ways to set it up and you know, but it's a fantastic strategy that is reserved for the wealthy.
Yeah. Right.
It's a strategy that's reserved for the wealthy. And unfortunately, people don't realize it's scalable. It's scalable to $50 a month. It doesn't have to be $100,000 a year like some wealthy person would do.
Yeah.
It can be $50 a month.
Yeah. And it can still make a big difference.
And it can still make a huge difference in your life.
Yeah. And that's it's really interesting. Like the way that you describe it, I'm like, the thought that comes into mind, I'm like, you're democratizing like information, like financial information basically, because like you said, like, and I mean, you explained this back in 2017, you're like, if you have a certain amount of money, like the banks literally will take you into a separate room, a separate place 100%. And have separate advisors and have different conversations with you about everything.
Yeah. I mean, the guy who trained me in the business, I mean, we went downtown one day in Calgary and, you could go into this one specific bank and I won't say the name. And they ask you for before you get inside to talk to one of the tellers, they ask you for like to see your bank card. And if you pull out your bank card and it's a certain color, they'll be like, you can go over here. And you sit in this foyer in a different part of the building. They give you cappuccinos and they give you cookies and they take care of you. They answer you with, sir and ma'am, and they know you by name. You're not just a number. And it's a totally different realm. Right. But if you don't have money, they send you to the teller. Tellers are great. Their job is, there's a purpose, and they do a lot of great things. But does a teller have the knowledge that a person in that back room would have? Not even close.
No, definitely
not even close. Yeah. And then we're supposed to take it, we're supposed to take advice from that teller who just graduated business school, that doesn't know anything about life, doesn't know anything about money, and is only taught what the bank wants you to teach.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
There's so many things that most people don't know. They wish they knew, and they just don't have an open mind. The amount of people that I meet that say something along the lines of, I already have an advisor. That's cool, man.
Like, I'm not looking to poach anybody.
I'm not trying to sell anything to you, and I'm not trying to poach you.
Yeah.
All I want to do is share with you what my company does, how I'm different, share with you some information. You do with it as you please.
Mm-hmm.
You take it back to your current advisor. Cool. Do that.
Yeah.
Don't care.
Like, even if you take the information
Don't
back
care.
and like do it with somebody else,
Don't
like
care.
that's a positive.
I want you in a better financial position.
Yeah.
Because I know what my parents went through raising my sisters and I.
Yeah.
And that's why my company exists. That's why Spectre exists. Is to literally take over the financial services world and just share information. And we are coming out with some fantastic educational type videos that we will be able to share with the masses. And it is going to be awesome.
That's amazing, dude.
Yeah, we're really excited for what's going on here right now.
I'm really looking forward to it. That's going to be really exciting. Yeah. I didn't know that's why you do what you do, but that's amazing. And I love that. I love that story. So if anybody's listening and you're not sold on this, this story, I mean, like, damn.
When I got introduced to the industry, the gentleman who recruited me didn't know that I actually knew what my parents' financial situation was.
Oh, okay.
And when he was going through all these little concepts and strategies, and we call them napkin presentations, I started being like, okay, well, what if a person is this? And what if a person does this? And what if a person has this debt? And what if a person has this mortgage? And what if a person has this and this and this and this and this? And after 3 hours at a Starbucks, we were supposed to be there for 30 minutes. After 3 hours, he said, as long as the person's credit is good and the situation that you're telling me is accurate, we should be able to free up about $900 a month in dollars that were being spent on taxes or debt inefficiently.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't know that I was talking about my parents' situation. And so we booked an appointment with my parents. It's been 15 years. My dad retired. $1,100 a month. They actually had some debt that they didn't tell me about. We ended up freeing up about $1,100 a month. Got some proper insurance in place. Started saving some money.
Yeah.
My dad's retired. My mom retires next year.
Yeah,
they're 11 years apart. So
yeah,
they go on 2 cruises every year. They love it. My dad never traveled until 6 or 7 years ago. And I'm just really fortunate that I was able to be a part of it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I can see
that's why I do what I do.
I can see your eyes getting a little watery.
Yep.
Telling that. What are you feeling? Why does that?
Because emotional? I think back to, so I got started in this business at 21. I think back to when I was 12. And if somebody had shared these concepts and strategies with me or my family when I was 12, would my parents have had to take my sisters out of sports? Like, would we have a better relationship now than we do now? Like, it's just, things can change, and it's just people not sharing information, and it's simple. It's simple stuff. It's not complex. Like, we're not talking, you don't have to be making $500,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
It's about understanding how we pay our debts, how we take our income in, where we can put dollars to not pay taxes either now or in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And, I meet so many people nowadays where the banks have talked them into doing, a 25-year mortgage because they get a lower interest rate. Whatever, 2.9, who cares what the number is? The number is irrelevant. Versus 3.5, what's called home equity line of credit. The bank will be like, well, it's a lower interest rate. Let's do this. The payment is twice as much, right? Yes, I'm only paying interest only on the line of credit, but the bank doesn't pay me to keep my equity of my house at the bank.
Mm-hmm.
I never get a statement saying, I talked to my fiance about this. When has the bank ever given you a check for keeping your money there? Never. Then why do you keep it there? Right? Banks are in the business of keeping people in debt.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I relate it to contractors and builders a lot of the time. If you're going to build a house and you're putting up some 2x4s, are you going to use a hammer and nails, or are you going to use a saw?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to use a hammer and nails. That's
what
it's for,
mm-hmm.
right? Banks are good at one thing: borrowing money. That's it. Borrow money for a house, borrow money for a car, whatever. Don't save your money there. And when you're borrowing it from them, understand that every dollar you pay them for principal, they use it as profit, right? So why? Take the lower payment and put your money somewhere else. Grow it somewhere else where you can control it, you can grow it, because the more money that you have, the more flexible your life will be. If a person lost his job in 2007, 2008, and they had $500,000 of equity in their house, and they still have to make a mortgage payment, think you can go get a mortgage? You think you can go get a line of credit or a mortgage from the bank? Nope. Right? I got all this money there, $500,000, got my house almost paid off, lost my job, got to make my mortgage payment. What if I don't make my mortgage payment? Well, you foreclose on your house. Okay, well, I've got $500,000 with you. Can you give me some of my own money to make my mortgage payment? Okay, show me that you have a job and that you can pay it back. I don't have a job. That I'm not giving you any of your equity. People went upside down and they lost not only their home, they lost the equity they had. When you could grow your equity somewhere else, and in the event of losing your job, getting hurt, whatever, you just take it from your right pocket and you put it in your left pocket. That's all it is, right? You have it in one account, and if you want to see your balance of your mortgage go down, cool. Take it out and put it on your mortgage. Your balance is going down. Cool. But they're not going to let you control it. They're not going to let you do stuff with it.
Yeah.
That's not their job. Their job is to teach you. Their job is to make money for them. Yeah. Right. Not to teach you how to get in a better position financially. And so my parents went through it for a long time, man. My parents were, the only fights I ever saw my parents have were financial. Wow. And I told myself that I would never let my family be in that situation.
Wow. Yeah. That's deep, man. And I love it.
Yeah. When I have kids, my kids will be, they can ask for whatever they want. They're not going to get everything they want every time, but it will never be, mom and dad can't afford it. It won't be it. Yeah. Even if I can't afford it. Yeah. It's not going to be, I can't afford it. It's we have to work harder for that thing. We're not there yet. Yeah. But I will never be making decisions based on whether to take one kid out of sports for the other one, because it's not going to happen. Yeah. So. Wow.
Dude, that's awesome. I'm really happy that you shared that, because I knew that there were reasons. I didn't know all the reasons. Yeah. And knowing them just makes it that much more special and that much more meaningful. And I know a lot more about you now than I did 2 hours ago. That's right. And before this glass of scotch.
That's right. 100%.
And that's awesome. As we sort of move into sort of wrapping up our conversation, I don't want to, but I know we both got other we got other stuff to do. Yeah, we still got a bottle.
I got date night. Fiance will kill me if I miss date night.
Yeah. As we sort of move into wrapping up here, we've been through a lot of stuff, but I mean, early on in the conversation, we said that you said that you're basically living your dream life now, other than like owning your own business and passionately helping other people live a good life. What does this dream life look like that you're talking about?
Yeah, man. I mean, control my time, do what I want. Obviously I'm somewhat tied to the business right now. But last year I got introduced to this fantastic woman. And I proposed in Iceland in February, which is awesome. We had a great time. Didn't have to ask my boss for time off. Just decided to take time. She's amazing. Super supportive. Never really had anybody in my life other than my parents who supported this dream of what this company could be like, or what I could do in this industry. And it's awesome, man. It's fantastic. So, we're getting married in June, and next year we're planning a honeymoon. Might even do it for 3 or 4 weeks, who knows? But I don't have to ask for time off. Yeah. I get to help people every day. I get to come home to a supportive spouse, and regardless of whether the day's good or bad, we get to sit there and talk about what we want our life to look like. we think we want to do the stay-at-home mom thing and potentially homeschool our kids, and that's what I always wanted my life to look like. Like when I got started in this business, I was sold the dream of, if you put in the work, you can have what you want. You can do whatever you want. And it's been fantastic. Listen, it's not always been easy. There's been some tough years, and I'm sure there's going to be some tough years in the future. Mm-hmm. But knowing that I do a good thing for people and I put them in the best situation that they can possibly be in moving forward, I can at least go to sleep every single night knowing that I'm not trying to take money out of people's pockets. I'm not trying to sell them something they don't need. I'm actually trying to help them get ahead financially, mm-hmm. Which just betters everything. I mean, most divorces in our country is because of financial, right? Financial fights, financial stress, it tears families apart. And like I said, that's the only fights that I ever saw my parents have. Mm-hmm. They never argued about anything else. Yeah. They only ever argued about how to pay one bill payment, or pay Peter to pay Paul. And it's the only thing they ever argued about. Yeah. And I got sold the dream that, build something for yourself, whether it's clients, whether it's training advisors. Really fortunate that I met a guy who gave me the opportunity to train other advisors. Because I was thinking about just doing the individual route. Crazy story that I won't get into too much detail, but I was actually thinking about leaving the industry prior to us pulling the trigger. Wow. I was really fed up with people not understanding. I was fed up with banks constantly perpetuating this cycle of debt. Mm-hmm. I saw a lot of friends get into some terrible situations that they shouldn't have gotten into. And it kind of made me upset, not just because they were being told to do something that they shouldn't have done, mm-hmm. but it also made me upset because I hadn't done a good enough job talking to them. Mm. And you can take that for people can take that for what it is. I've lost a few friends because they think I'm pressuring them into doing something they shouldn't do, or that I think they should do and that they don't want to do. And that's honestly, if that's what breaks our friendship up, then the friendship wasn't very good to begin with. We just had a client who she chose not to take life insurance back in November, December. She thought it was too expensive. And yesterday she reached out saying that she's in the hospital with cancer and she wished she had done it. And I would rather lose a friendship and have you covered with insurance or something than you not be here a year from now and your family be in a terrible situation. Mm-hmm. And like I said, if that's what breaks our friendship up, then it just wasn't that strong. Yeah. Because I love what I do, and I would support anybody in what they love to do. And you don't have to do business with me, but to tell me that I'm trying to pressure you into something, I've never pressured a single person in my life. I share information. I tell people what they should think about doing. You tell me. I'm not here to make a decision for you. Yeah. I'm here to give you information, and you do with it as you please. Yeah. And some people choose to do it and some people don't, and it is what it is. But I've never pressured a single person to sign on the dotted line of any kind. And I never will. And so, yeah, I love what I do. Living a fantastic life right now. Just really getting ready for the wedding in June, and
I'm just so happy for business, you guys. Man, so. I'm so happy for you as an individual, of like all that you've been able to like build over the last 18 months here, or 13 months here. 13 months, yeah. 13 months here, which is crazy to think about that it's only been that long. And the fact that you have somebody like your spouse is incredible. Like that is wonderful. And Shelby and I have gone through some really tough financial times over the last 3 years. We're still working through that. But one thing that has never wavered is our support of one another, and specifically her support in me pursuing what I'm passionate about and where there's purpose and fulfillment. And that's honestly what's led us to where we are now. And it's the most rewarding thing. And we literally had a chat like a month ago, and we're sitting on our porch, and we share this in one of our coffee date episodes that we have on the podcast. We literally looked at our bank accounts. We're like, we have $1,300 right now and $10,000 worth of credit card debt. Like, we have $1,300 in our bank account, $10,000 in credit card debt. We're so fucking happy right now. 100%. Like, we're so fulfilled. There's so much purpose in our life. There's so much momentum, and we know we have more clarity around what we want to do. And that started with like the unconditional love and support for one another. And she's taught me how to love on such a deeper level. And it's incredible to have somebody like that.
And when you have that connection and fulfillment and desire to do what you do, the money will come.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, and
it's not a matter of if.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of when. And will you stick it out long enough? That's what that's all it is.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Because people are attracted to people that are passionate about what they're doing and love what they do. And yeah, we're just getting started here, just like you're getting started there, man. It's going to be an exciting journey for the next few years because there's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, that's incredible, dude. I love I love the opportunity that I had today to learn a lot more about you and really why you do what you do and diving into some of the deeper events that have happened in your life, the pivotal moments. What piece of advice would you give the person listening right now that wants to build the life of their dreams, but hasn't taken that first step or is hesitant to like really go after it? What would be your piece of advice for that person?
Oh, that's a tough one, man. There's so many good pieces of advice out there. What piece of advice would I give somebody? Honestly, the time's going to pass anyways. So if the time's going to pass anyways, would you rather do something you hate or would you rather do something you love? You know, a year from now, you're going to be a year older. You're going to be a year farther, another year around the world, around the sun. Would you rather do it with happiness and joy and maybe a little less money in your bank account? Or would you rather be stressed and hating your job and hating your life and not sure what you want to do? There's so many different ways to be successful, and success means so many different things to so many different people, but, do it, be happy doing it. The biggest piece of advice I ever got was actually from a personal selling teacher. It was a course I took in university. And he said, what most people do is they figure out what they're passionate about, art, sports, whatever. They make a career out of it and they lose the passion for it because now they have to do it to pay their bills and they have to do it to pay their lifestyle and do the things that they do. And it no longer becomes a passion. And he said, what you should do, and I'm not saying everybody should do this. I did it. But he said, what you should do is think about what you want your life to look like 15 years from now, 20 years from now. What do you want to be doing? What kind of a life do you want to live? Find a career that will give it to you and leave your passions. And so personally, sports are my passions. I would never become a coach. I never in a million years could ruin it for me because you know, not everybody wants to be there. Not everybody wants to compete at the level I wanted to compete at. So I chose, you know what, I don't want to do anything with sports. I'd love to have a life where I control my time, control my income. There's no glass ceiling. You know, I can have as many kids as I want. I could potentially have a stay-at-home wife in this society, which is very tough nowadays. I get to travel the world and do what I want and take vacation when I want. And sports can remain sports. And so whenever I get a chance to play sports, I absolutely love it. And I have a fantastic time doing it, whether it's indoor volleyball, beach volleyball, soccer, you name it. I love playing it. You want to teach me a sport, I'm down. I learned squash a couple of years ago. It was a fantastic sport. And I have a fantastic time because it's a passion. Yeah. That's what it is for me. And so I took that to heart, and I'm not saying anybody else needs to take that to heart. I took it to heart.
Just one option.
It's one option.
And you do with it what you want.
Do with it as you please. There's a lot of great advice out there, and
Yeah.
you really have to learn how to take the good advice with the good and leave the bad behind.
Yeah.
Because we're not all the same.
Yeah.
We don't all want the same things. We don't all have the same life. We don't all come from the same background. And not every piece of advice is going to stick with every person.
Yeah.
So what you think you like, take with it, adapt it. If it works, keep doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And if it doesn't, it's okay to change.
Yeah.
It's okay to change and pivot and keep going down a path on a different road. It's fine. Just make sure you're on the right road.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you for everything today. This has been
man.
Incredible, dude. I did
you.
not know exactly where this was going to go, but it's been amazing.
We've been talking about this for a long time, and it was great, man. I appreciate having me on the podcast.
Yeah,
it's been awesome seeing you grow the brand from what it was in the beginning. Just at Holt, and it's Holt, right?
Yeah,
just at Holt, and with just your students, and your peers. And growing it into what it's been growing, and I know it's going to continue to grow. So
thanks,
I'm excited to see what happens.
I appreciate it.
So
I think you're getting a call about date night.
I'm going to call. I better be there in 15 minutes.
All right, buddy. Well,
Cool,
we'll wrap stuff up.
Sounds good.
All right. Awesome, man.
Anytime.
Yeah. All right.